Chosen one, anchor your attention on this message right now. Silence the thought telling you that you are overlooked, forgotten, or too ordinary to be chosen. That heaviness in your chest is not proof that you have been rejected. Perhaps the last 72 hours have felt unusually intense. Maybe you received a message, invitation, opportunity, or unexpected sign that made you question whether you were truly ready. Or maybe you woke up around 300 in the morning with your mind racing, sensing that something in your life was shifting before you had any evidence to explain it. Some of you have been pulling away from noise, protecting your energy, and wondering why the familiar doors no longer feel right. The enemy is attacking your confidence this week. For one reason, recognition is approaching. What was hidden is beginning to become visible. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared for a level of responsibility that could not be entrusted to the version of you that kept seeking approval. It begins changing now. The confusion, the hesitation, the feeling of being passed over. But hear this clearly, it is not ending because of luck. It is ending because you kept growing when nobody applauded. Think back to that moment this week when you refused to chase someone's validation, when you stayed quiet instead of explaining yourself, or when you chose discipline over distraction. You thought you were losing access. You were actually proving that you could carry the crown without allowing it to control you. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm may have delivered it to your screen, but your discernment brought you here. Treat this as a spiritual appointment and a call to prepare, not a promise to surrender your judgment. In the next few minutes, you will receive a decree for visibility, a clear discernment check for recognizing genuine opportunity, and a declaration to help you step into honor without losing humility. Do not scroll away before the verdict. Your future self is depending on you to recognize the door without reopening the doors that diminished you. The enemy has been whispering, "You were not chosen. You are only being used. You are too late." But Isaiah 60,001 declares, "Arise, shine, for your light has come." That is not permission to become arrogant. It is a command to stop hiding. The pressure you feel is not punishment. It is preparation. You are not begging for a crown. You are becoming trustworthy enough to wear one. Some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, you may be ready to receive the Chosen One's blueprint. This sacred guide reveals the 8 divine patterns behind your calling, your suffering, and your destiny. It also comes with the full audiobook, so you can absorb it during prayer, rest, or quiet moments with God. And for those called to speak His truth, you'll also receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a powerful bonus ebook for those carrying a prophetic assignment. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. But hear this clearly, a crown is not merely a reward. A crown is a responsibility. It is not placed upon your life to make you feel superior to those around you, nor is it given so you can finally silence every person who once doubted you. It exists to remind you that what has been entrusted to you must be carried with humility, discernment, courage, and reverence. A crown may shine in public, but it is carried in private. It rests upon a person who understands that influence is not ownership, leadership is not domination, and elevation is not permission to forget the God who opened the way. The reason many people cannot recognize the season of elevation is because they are still waiting for elevation to look comfortable. They imagine open doors without opposition, honor without misunderstanding, influence without sacrifice, and recognition without the painful process of becoming trustworthy with what they have asked to receive. They expect the promise to arrive wrapped in ease, but many divine promises arrive wrapped in responsibility. The door may open, but you still have to walk through it with wisdom. The opportunity may appear, but you still have to manage it with integrity. The blessing may come, but you still have to protect your heart from becoming consumed by the blessing itself. But heaven does not place a crown on an unprepared mind. God may call you before He confirms you publicly. He may separate you before He introduces you. He may allow you to be overlooked while He develops the inner structure required to carry what everyone else will eventually see. A tree does not begin with branches reaching toward the sky. It begins beneath the soil, where roots deepen in darkness, unseen by everyone except the one who planted it. In the same way, your hidden development may have appeared like delay, but it was forming stability beneath the surface. This is why your hidden season mattered. The nights when you had to encourage yourself mattered. The moments when you were excluded, dismissed, underestimated, and forced to build without applause mattered. The prayers you whispered through tears mattered. The days you kept showing up with no evidence that anything was changing mattered. You thought those experiences were proof that you had been forgotten, but many of them were actually exposing what could not come with you into the next level. Some attachments had to loosen. Some motives had to be purified. Some versions of you had to end quietly so a truer version could begin. David was anointed long before he was recognized as king. The oil came before the throne, and the wilderness came between the promise and the public position. He was not crowned because he had never been tested. He was crowned because the testing revealed something in him that comfort could not produce. In the lonely fields, he learned how to protect what was vulnerable. In the presence of danger, he learned courage. In the silence, he learned how to worship without an audience. The palace later gave him visibility, but the wilderness had already given him formation. And this is where you must look honestly at yourself. Are you asking for a crown, or are you asking for validation? Are you prepared to serve, or do you simply want to be seen? Do you desire influence because you want to help people rise, or because you want the people who rejected you to regret their decision? Do you want to be entrusted with people, or do you merely want people to admire you? These questions are not meant to condemn you. They are meant to cleanse the desire before the desire becomes an altar. There is a difference between divine elevation and emotional revenge. One is rooted in purpose. The other is rooted in pain. God can use your pain, but he will not allow your wounds to govern your authority forever. If revenge sits beneath your ambition, success will never feel like peace. You will keep checking the faces of those who hurt you, waiting for their reaction, measuring your healing by their regret. But freedom begins when their recognition is no longer required for your obedience. The greatest evidence that God has healed you is not that your enemies applaud, it is that you no longer need them to. So the first movement in this season is internal. You must release the need to prove that you are chosen. If God has chosen you, time will reveal what arguments never could. You do not have to chase every person who doubted you. You do not have to explain every chapter of your life to people committed to misunderstanding it. You do not have to campaign for a position that heaven has already assigned. A seed does not argue with the soil about whether it is meant to become a tree. It simply continues through the process of breaking open. Let your fruit speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your character speak when your name is not in the room. Let the way you handle small responsibilities testify about the larger ones you are preparing to carry. A reputation can be manufactured for a moment, but fruit requires time. What is real will eventually become visible, not because you forced it into the light, but because truth has a way of growing beyond the reach of concealment. But here's where it goes deeper. Being chosen does not mean being exempt from discipline. In fact, the more significant the assignment, the more seriously your patterns must be examined. The crown does not transform a person, it reveals the person who has been forming in secret. Authority does not create character, it gives character a larger stage. Whatever lives within you will eventually speak through your decisions, your relationships, your money, your words, and your treatment of people who cannot benefit you. If you are impatient in obscurity, influence will magnify your impatience. If you are controlled by insecurity, attention will amplify your insecurity. If you cannot receive correction, authority will turn into isolation. If you use people when you are powerless, power will only give you more opportunities to misuse them. If you are easily offended, visibility will provide endless reasons to feel wounded. This is why the Lord examines the heart before expanding the platform. He is not trying to keep you small. He is trying to keep the assignment safe in your hands. This is why God has been dealing with your reactions. The delay was not only about timing, it was also about maturity. Every time you wanted to respond but chose restraint, something royal was being formed in you. Every time you refused to return cruelty for cruelty, you were breaking an old inheritance. Every time you told the truth when a lie would have been easier, you were strengthening the foundation beneath the crown. Every time you forgave without returning to an unsafe place, you were learning the difference between mercy and self-abandonment. And what's coming next will likely surprise you, because the next sign of elevation may not look like an invitation. It may look like a final test of whether you still need the approval of the people you are being separated from. Sometimes the last examination before promotion is not whether you can attract a crowd, but whether you can remain obedient when the crowd disappears. Sometimes God allows a familiar door to close, so you can discover that your future was never dependent on a familiar room. You have to understand that not everyone who applauds your crown is qualified to advise your heart. Some people celebrate your access because they want access through you. Some praise your light because they want to position themselves near its warmth. Some will call you powerful while quietly attempting to keep you dependent on their approval. They may applaud your growth as long as your growth does not challenge their control. They may celebrate your obedience until your obedience requires you to stop accommodating them. Discernment is not suspicion. Discernment is the ability to recognize what a connection is producing in you. After certain conversations, do you feel clearer or confused, stronger or smaller, more obedient to God or more desperate to impress people, more peaceful or more divided within yourself? The fruit of a relationship often reveals its true nature long before its words do. A connection may sound spiritual and still produce fear. It may sound affectionate and still produce dependence. It may look familiar and still be draining the very life God is trying to restore. Jesus had compassion for crowds, but he did not surrender his identity to their opinions. He served people without allowing the crowd to define his assignment. He healed, taught, fed, and loved, yet he still withdrew when the Father called him into solitude. That is a difficult lesson for anyone entering a season of visibility. You can love people without obeying every demand they place on you. You can be available without being constantly accessible. You can be generous without becoming governed by expectation. Your crown requires boundaries, not walls built from bitterness, but gates governed by wisdom. You cannot give every person unlimited access to your attention, your emotions, your plans, or your private struggles. A gate does not mean the city hates everyone outside it. It means the city understands that access must be managed. Nehemiah understood this when he refused to come down from the wall for conversations that were designed to interrupt the work. Not every invitation deserves a response. Not every accusation requires a defense. Not every open door is an assignment. Some doors are distractions dressed as opportunities. Stay with me, because what I am about to share next is the part many chosen people avoid. You may have to disappoint people in order to remain faithful to God. The fear of disappointing others has caused many people to disappoint themselves, abandon their convictions, and postpone obedience until the moment has passed. You may be called selfish by those who benefited from your constant sacrifice. You may be called distant by those who only knew how to reach you through your wounds. But the discomfort of their misunderstanding is not greater than the cost of living outside your calling. There are seasons when obedience will make you look selfish to people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. There are seasons when growth will appear like distance to those who are comfortable with the version of you that never said no. There are seasons when your silence will be interpreted as arrogance because certain people only felt powerful when they could provoke you. Remember, the fruit of obedience is not always immediate approval. Sometimes it is a deeper peace that arrives after the noise has faded. But you are not responsible for preserving every relationship at the expense of your becoming. Even Jesus withdrew to solitary places. Even Paul had to separate from certain companions when the mission required it. Separation is not always rejection. Sometimes it is the environment God uses to protect an assignment from premature exposure. A butterfly cannot remain in the cocoon simply because the cocoon once kept it safe. There comes a point when the very place that protected your development begins to restrict your movement. And once you recognize that, you must stop confusing familiarity with loyalty. Someone can know your history and still have no permission to shape your future. Someone can have helped you in one season and still be unable to accompany you into the next. Gratitude is holy, but bondage disguised as gratitude is not. You can honor the hand that helped you without allowing that hand to hold you back. You can remember the kindness of yesterday without making it a lifelong contract against tomorrow. Honor what people have done without handing them ownership of what God is doing now. This brings you to another shift. You must learn how to carry praise without becoming addicted to it. The crown will attract attention, but attention is not always affirmation. Sometimes attention is simply pressure with a spotlight on it. People may celebrate your results while secretly resenting your process. They may admire your confidence without understanding the years you spent rebuilding your identity. They may praise the visible harvest while knowing nothing about the seasons when you watered the ground with tears. Do not let public applause become your private source of worth. If the crowd can make you feel chosen, the crowd can also make you feel rejected. If your value rises and falls with comments, invitations, numbers, or recognition, then your heart is still sitting in the audience, waiting for permission to be at peace. Your identity must be anchored deeper than public opinion. Let God be the place where your name is secure, even when people forget to mention it. The wilderness taught David who he was, before the palace taught everyone else his name. That is why the palace did not create him, it exposed him. When the room became larger, the private character he had cultivated became visible. This is why you must not despise the quiet work. The prayer no one hears, the discipline no one praises, the forgiveness no one notices, and the decision to remain honest when compromise would have been profitable are all shaping the person who will eventually stand in the light. Coming up is the hidden conflict beneath your desire to be crowned, and when you see it, you may realize that the greatest opposition has not been coming from outside of you. Before that revelation, you must reclaim your voice. There are people who've been living beneath the volume of their own calling because someone mocked them when they first tried to speak. Maybe you were told that your ideas were foolish, your sensitivity was weakness, your dreams were unrealistic, or your spiritual perception was imagination. Maybe you were interrupted so often that you began to believe your words carried no weight. Over time, you began editing yourself before anyone else had the chance to reject you. But a crown cannot rest on a head that continually bows to voices God never authorized. You cannot build a future with a voice that has been permanently surrendered to the critics of your past. The sound of fear may be familiar, but familiarity does not make it truth. There is a difference between listening to wise counsel and living under unauthorized verdicts. This does not mean you become loud, arrogant, or careless. It means you stop treating fear as wisdom. You stop calling avoidance discernment. You stop calling self-betrayal humility. You stop saying, "I am just being realistic," when what you really mean is, "I am afraid to be disappointed again." Wisdom may tell you to move carefully, but fear will tell you never to move at all. Wisdom prepares you. Fear paralyzes you. Gideon saw himself as the least in his family, hiding from the threat around him. Yet heaven addressed him according to what he was becoming, rather than what he had been conditioned to believe. Sometimes God speaks to your identity before your circumstances agree with it. The angel called him mighty while he was still hiding. That means the presence of fear does not mean the absence of calling. Courage is not the absence of trembling. It is the decision to obey while trembling. So speak truth over yourself, not empty flattery, but truth. I am learning. I am growing. I am allowed to begin again. I can be humble without being invisible. I can be compassionate without abandoning myself. I can be chosen without becoming proud. I can carry influence without losing intimacy with God. I can listen to correction without surrendering my identity. I can make mistakes without becoming a mistake. I can move slowly without being behind. And here is the confrontation. You may have been asking God to crown you while secretly protecting the very identity that keeps you small. You may be asking for a new name while continuing to answer to the old one. You may be praying for increase while rehearsing every reason you are unqualified. You may be standing before a new gate while holding tightly to the key of an old prison. You say you want a new season, but you continue rehearsing the old story. You say you want to be trusted, but you refuse the habits that make trust possible. You say you want to lead, but you resist accountability. You say you want abundance, but you still make decisions from the fear of never having enough. You say you want the right people, but you remain emotionally attached to those who only recognize the wounded version of you. The future cannot be fully received by hands that are still gripping the evidence of yesterday. The crown is not being withheld because God is cruel. It may be delayed because the old identity is still negotiating for control. God is patient enough to wait until you understand that the blessing is not meant to decorate the old pattern. It is meant to establish a new way of living. The next level cannot be built on the same agreements that kept you bound. Israel left Egypt, but Egypt had to leave Israel. Freedom from a place is not the same as freedom from the mindset formed there. You can leave the toxic relationship and still carry its voice. You can escape poverty and still think like scarcity owns you. You can survive rejection and still live as though love must be earned through performance. You can be delivered from the external prison while still consulting the internal jailer before making every decision. This is the hidden work of the crowned life, allowing God to remove the survival strategies that once protected you, but now prevent you from receiving. Some strategies were necessary when you were younger. Silence may have protected you then. Hyper-independence may have helped you endure. Emotional distance may have kept you from collapsing. But what protected you in one environment may prevent intimacy, rest, and healthy connection in another. You learned to stay quiet because speaking brought punishment. You learned to overgive because being useful made you feel safe. You learned to expect betrayal, so disappointment would not surprise you. You learned to control every detail because uncertainty once cost you dearly. These patterns are understandable, but they do not have to remain permanent. God does not shame the armor you needed. He simply teaches you when it is time to remove it. But survival is not the same as destiny. The methods that carried you through yesterday may become chains in tomorrow. There comes a moment when God asks you to put down the armor you once needed. You cannot embrace with both hands if both hands are still clenched around weapons. You cannot receive new wine while insisting that every container remain unchanged. Transformation often begins with an open hand, and this leads to the unexpected revelation. The thing blocking your crown may not be the enemy, your past, or the people who opposed you. It may be your attachment to being the person who survived without help. You have made an identity out of endurance, and now receiving feels almost threatening because it asks you to admit that you were never meant to carry everything alone. You have become so proud of your endurance that you struggle to receive. You know how to fight, but you do not know how to rest. You know how to rescue others, but you do not know how to be supported. You know how to carry burdens, but you do not know how to let God carry you. You may call it responsibility, but sometimes it is fear wearing a responsible face. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is allow someone trustworthy to help you. There is hidden pride in believing everything depends on you. It may look like strength, but beneath it is a refusal to trust. You may say you are waiting on God while secretly believing that if you do not control every outcome, everything will collapse. But the world did not begin with your effort, and it will not end because you rested. The God who sustained you in the wilderness is not asking you to become your own provider, protector, and savior. But the crown is not a trophy for the strongest person in the room. It is a trust placed in the hands of someone willing to remain surrendered. Moses had a staff, but he still needed God's instruction. Mary carried a promise, but she still had to say yes without controlling the outcome. The apostles were sent with authority, but they were also told to depend on provision they could not manufacture. Divine authority is never a substitute for divine dependence. Your next level will require you to receive help without feeling weak, rest without feeling guilty, and trust without having every detail explained. You will have to believe that obedience is still obedience, even when the outcome is not visible. You will have to let God lead you one step at a time, like a lamp illuminating the next portion of the path, rather than the entire road at once. That is the part that breaks the cycle. Not becoming more impressive, but becoming more yielded. Not proving that you are exceptional, but accepting that grace can work through you without your constant struggle to make it happen. You do not have to force the river to flow. You have to remove what keeps you from entering it. You do not have to carry the whole harvest in one day. You have to remain faithful to the portion placed before you. The crown is not proof that you no longer need God. It is proof that you have learned you never did anything meaningful without Him. Every open door, every lesson, every recovery, every moment of strength, and every unseen rescue points back to grace. The crown belongs on a surrendered head because the glory belongs to the one who entrusted it. So walk forward differently. Do not rush to announce what is still being formed. Do not expose every seed before it becomes strong enough to survive the weather. Protect your peace. Keep your commitments small enough to honor and strong enough to matter. Let your private obedience become louder than your public ambition. What God is growing in you does not need constant explanation. Some things become stronger when they are watered quietly. If people call you late, remember that divine timing is not measured by comparison. If they call you different, do not assume it is an insult. If you find yourself standing alone, ask whether you are lonely or simply no longer surrounded by people who require you to betray yourself. There is a holy loneliness that appears when you stop abandoning yourself for companionship. Do not run back to old rooms simply because the new room has not yet filled with familiar faces. You are not being crowned so you can stand above people. You are being positioned so you can lift what has been entrusted to you. Your influence should make room for others to heal, grow, create, speak, and return to God with greater clarity. A true leader does not need everyone beneath them. A true leader builds bridges, opens gates, shares wisdom, and helps others discover the dignity God placed within them. The true crown is not confirmed by how many people serve you. It is revealed by how many people become stronger, freer, and more whole. Because you served with wisdom. If your elevation leaves everyone around you diminished, then it is not the kind of elevation heaven celebrates. But if your presence brings courage to the discouraged, order to the confused, compassion to the wounded, and truth to the deceived, then your crown is fulfilling its purpose. Place your hand on your heart and declare this with me. I release the need to prove my worth. I release every label formed by rejection, fear, and old pain. I surrender the desire to control every outcome. I receive the wisdom, courage, humility, and strength required for what God is placing in my hands. I will not confuse attention with identity, isolation with protection, or survival with destiny. I will walk with discernment. I will honor my boundaries. I will receive support without shame. I will carry influence without pride. And I will use every opportunity to bring light, truth, and restoration. What is meant for me will not require me to betray who God is forming me to become. And if this message found you in a season where you are quietly becoming someone new, do not keep it locked inside. Share in the comments, I am ready to carry the crown with humility, not as a performance but as a personal agreement with the work happening within you. And if you know someone who has been overlooked, discouraged, or afraid of their own next season, send this to them. Sometimes a single confirmation arrives at the exact moment a person is deciding whether to give up.